The Matrix 4 Resurrections trailer looks pretty darn freaking good. I'm looking forward to what the possibilities are going to be with Neo coming back. Is it that he's in a new body? Is it that his mind has been sucked into a new matrix? Did he create his own matrix? Is the matrix in his own mind and he actually has connected himself to any and all other people? That would be very interesting of an exploration to do. Why they're bringing in certain characters, why they removed certain characters. Maybe they altered and changed and they had the like follow the rabbit. It's pretty much a remake of Matrix 1. But why? You could have it where it creates a new timeline. But again, why would you create a new timeline within Matrix 4? Because there's no such thing as a new timeline. Is it that he didn't wake up and somebody else woke up for him and he's just in a new body? Or again, why Keanu Reeves did you bring back and other characters? It's a really good, again, good thought-provoking activities. That led me to the Wachowski sisters, trans women, but they're trans. It's really baffling. Has come out recently saying, hey, yeah, trans, it's probably been a lot longer than just recently, but it's gained momentum, that the Matrix was always about a trans allegory. Because now the Wachowski brothers, both of them are sisters. So the series was about a trans allegory of mind being trapped, body being free to do what you want with, etc. And that led me to some questions, and I started debating myself, and I tried to do as many videos as I possibly could. And I wanted to make certain that if I was going down a rabbit trail, haha, Matrix, that I was making certain I was taking the other side as fair as I possibly could without straw manning the position. So that led me to this video. The Matrix as a Transgender Narrative with Kinsey, what is it? Lettuce? Lettuce? I don't know how to pronounce the last name, so I'm just going to go with Kinsey. The Matrix as a Transgender Narrative. I was probably going to be bringing up some very weak arguments against as to why the Matrix actually is a transgender allegory. I would actually consider it to be the opposite of. Right? There's reality that people are trying to get into. Their minds are trapped, and they're trying to get into their physical body, rather than trying to make their physical body into what their mind is. They're not trying to stay in the system. They're actually trying to be free in the real world. But you could also have it where the analogy is, well, they want to do what they want with their own body, to have their own agency to choose, regardless of whatever the system, like cis-normative behavior, if you were born the same gender as your sex, that's the system that they're trying to escape and actually have freedom from. I mean, that's a very fair point. I can understand that position, but I need to know a little bit more about that position before I make any arguments that are against it. Specifically of what I believe to be true, not just for the sake of being against it and being antagonistic. Because there's beliefs that I have, but I need to make certain that the system, the way that it is, that the arguments that I'm going to be arguing against and for something else, I need to have that argumentation to the letter, to the T. I've read some of the comments in the comment section. I think there was a lot of praise about this video. I'll have the link of this original video in the comment section, not the comment section, but the description box down below. And I got to the first 16 seconds, and I was very surprised about how stupid of an argument this is. It's retarded. Let's get into it. By the way, let's first read this. Violence, blood, language, transphobia, sexual themes, discussion of suicide. The term queer is periodically used. The author acknowledges that it is a reclaimed slur and may be offensive to some viewers. Viewer discretion is advised. I love that from the Law and Order series. Viewer discretion is advised. It's always have that everywhere. Just I love the voice, not the actual quote.
This is your last chance.
This is your last chance. One of the most One of the most famous movie quotes, movie scenes in all of cinematography of cinema.
After this, there is no turning back. You take the blue pill.
The blue pill is you, straight people. That's fascinating. Let's take this with a grain of salt. The blue pill that keeps you asleep is being straight. Before we can go any further, I need to address, are you saying that I need to be awakened and become trans? Which means that it's literally something that you're mentally manipulated to become. Because you might actually not be trans, you might be convinced by society, which is more trans-normative, quite the opposite of heteronormative. There's actually a normative of trans people coming out. Why? Because people convince themselves that they are trans when they probably aren't. And then they lop off their breasts, they lop off their penis, and they're like, oh no, I made the mistake of doing something that I shouldn't have done. I was mentally convinced that my physical body was a certain way when my physical body was not. Isn't it fascinating where it's, you're asleep, you straight people. You're asleep. Wow, this is fascinating. Can't even get any further than this, but be like, oh, wow, you've actually convinced me that my position is correct. Because me being straight, whatever that is nowadays, whatever you want it to be, me being, or just, no, not me. A straight person is asleep. Not me. Someone else who's straight, they're really asleep. They're just gonna they're gonna put their heads back on their pillow, and they're gonna dream whatever they dream, however they want to dream, because if you really were awake, you'd be gay, or trans. You'd be anything that you want to be. Man.
The story ends. You wake up in your bed and believe whatever you want.
You're believing whatever you want to believe. Isn't that the trans position? You can believe anything that's up in here, and you make your body that way. I believe myself to be a woman, then you make your body that way. Isn't that the red pill? I mean, the blue pill? The red pill? It's all the same. It's all, anything could be whatever you want it to be. Anything could be whatever you want it to be. Oh my goodness. We're about to get into the red pill. Isn't it, you can believe whatever it is that you want to believe? That is what is literally what's happening when you're trans? Literally and specifically. The real world that we live right now, the culture believes that if you're trans, you're correct. Rather than being incorrect and you need to face reality. Because the red pill is about facing reality that you actually might be a particular thing, not whatever it is that you believe to be true. It doesn't matter whether or not I'm a certain way. What is reality? What is this physical body in which I live in? What is this world in which I live in? Well, again, one side is whatever your mind makes of it, that's what it is. That is true. Absolutely. Yes, that is a true statement that your mind does make reality. Also, there is reality. That is the thing. There is reality. Oh, but you get to make whatever you want of it. Please don't vote. Wait, why are you bringing this to be political? Anything could be whatever you want it to be. But if you disagree with me, you're going to jail. That's called power dynamics. That's called moral relativism. Anything can be whatever you want it to be. Also, separate thought, separate mentality. If you disagree with me, you're objectively wrong because my position is the correct one. But anything could be whatever you want it to be. But if you disagree with me, you're going to jail. Anything could be whatever you want it to be, but if you disagree with me, you're going to jail. It's two different mindsets. It's a disassociation of logic. It's a disassociation of mentality when you have this position. 15 seconds into this film, I don't know if we could get any further than this. If this is your beginning main argument.
You take the red pill. You stay in Wonderland.
And I'll show you just how deep the rabbit hole goes.
You mean reality? Because that's what the red pill is. Red pill is waking up. It's an analogy of waking up, removing yourself from the trap system, realizing what is actually real, not what I want it to be real. I'm not going to put my head on the pillow. I'm actually going to explore and understand certain things that are objectively true outside of myself, regardless of whether or not my mental state, my mental attitude, whether or not my heart says one thing, what is actually true outside of myself. That is the red pill. And it doesn't mean there's a political party or a political affiliation or a religious affiliation that specifically, actually, let me rephrase that last part. There is a religious affiliation, specifically Christianity, that heralds the truth objectively. They're the ones that say, yes, this is what the truth is. Every other one says, well, this is what we believe to be the truth is. Big difference. I know it's like, oh, I've just probably pissed off a whole heck of a lot of people who are not Christians, and Christians too. Kind of a cool thing if I get to piss everybody off. But specifically any political affiliation, you could be whatever political affiliation you have. Regardless of whatever label you have on yourself, trans, straight, there's the truth. Like, yes, trans people probably I say that, have more, not discrepancies, more issues when it comes to social interactions with other people. Proven historically, yes, that is correct. You being trans is not you being straight and it being normal has nothing to do with whether or not it's good. Normal behavior does not mean it's a good behavior. Normal behavior is just what is the median, the middle, the medium. Again, middle size, large, medium, short, large, medium, small. Medium is in the middle. Median, it's where people are. Just because people are doing a certain thing on a popular scale, or the majority of people are doing something, does not make it a good thing. The majority of people are asleep. Very few people wake up. And they're the ones that can lead people to actually become something more. The Matrix. That's what the Matrix is. The majority of people are doing something, regardless of it being one way or the other. Just because that they are doing it doesn't make it good. Just because I was awakened and saying, oh my goodness, all gays should die. Nobody has my position, or very few people do. Therefore, my position's good? Because I'm on the outskirts, because I've been woken up? No, that's like... Wait, what? That's not real. That's your own belief and subjective point of view that you don't like them. It's like your subjective point of view can be wrong. My subjective point of view can be wrong. That there's an objective truth outside of myself. That's what I need to abide by. And yeah.
These were the only sunglasses I owned. I shouldn't need to...
And I don't fault you for that. So I think I only have like one pair of functioning sunglasses too.
Produce The Matrix. It's one of the most influential and popular action movies of all time. With a sleek style, it almost single-handedly murdered the giant muscular action hero genre, forcing Arnold Schwarzenegger out of the film business altogether and into the California governor's mansion.
And how well did that work for California? It didn't.
When they remade Total Recall in 2012, they didn't cast a beefcake, they cast a scrawny white dude. But between the kung fu, rooftop jumping, and gunfights, The Matrix also touched on subjects like philosophy and existentialism, allowing audiences to feel smart while enjoying scenes like this.
Okay. Just pausing it for the YouTube algorithm to make certain that this one clip, even though one channel, I think one channel might be able to get away with certain things, and then other channels may not. I don't know if I don't know if that's the case. I'm not going against Kenzie here. I'm just, maybe some channels can get away with certain things, and some channels cannot. Like a trailer channel might be able to get away with certain trailers being released, while other people who release a certain trailer might not be able to monetize it. I mean, it's just like there's different just algorithm. I don't know what the YouTube algorithm is. That's why I'm pausing it. So.
This also made it the perfect choice to be the first rated R movie my parents would let me see.
I congratulate your parents. This is a really good R-rated. Is this an R-rated movie? I have to look that up. This is worth stopping and actually looking this up, because I thought it was at least a PG-13 movie. But again, there's a lot of themes in it which would make it rated R. Like, I really thought it was PG-13. But why would it be a PG-13 movie? But there's not that much death. But again, like being a serious movie doesn't make it rated R, does it? Oh, that's kind of interesting. Matrix 1 rating. That's probably going to give me some... let's go with rated R. Nope, not finding anything. I'm just getting a lot of reviews and ratings, not the actual whatever thing it is called.
Thematically, the movie is less like other 90s action films and is more in line with Office Space or Fight Club, critiquing the soullessness of post-Cold War late capitalist America. The heroes weren't police or military figures, they were the rebels fighting the system.
Fight the system, yeah! Fight which system? Again, nothing says rebel like collective thought. Like, what if your thoughts are wrong? Nothing says rebel like I have to, like, abiding by other people's philosophy because I'm just part of the group. Well, the group can be wrong. I'm going to rebel against them. Right? It's like, what are you fighting against? What are you fighting for? The truth. The truth often wins out in the end 100, 200, 300 years later. Regardless of whether or not I live or not. Regardless of whether or not I'm living for something, the truth ultimately wins. It does. Ultimately wins in the end.
And The Matrix told its impressionable audience members to wake up and see the world for what it truly is. The film actually got this message across strongly enough that its metaphor for waking up, the red pill, is still being used today. Granted, the people online who identify...
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. It has nothing to do with which philosophy system that you believe in, because certain philosophies can be wrong. But it can be, again, to wake up to a certain thing that you have not been aware of. If there's a war that's happening, or specifically what's happening in Afghanistan today, if you were never aware of what's happening overseas, you are now. That's called taking the red pill. You are waking up, you are now aware of certain things.
Identify with the red pill, think it means feminists and the gays are destroying traditional society and Western values, and we need to go back to a time before women's suffrage, racial integration, and gay marriage ruined everything. Which is funny, because The Matrix is about being trans.
Wait. Elon Musk said take the red pill. The red pill is ultimately just to be awakened to something. It is a very general term. It has nothing to do with being a Republican or conservative, as those are the colors being associated in America. And then Ivanka Trump says, taken the red pill. The red pill is really being awakened and realizing, A, the government sucks. The government's spending all of your money on things that it just cannot pay for and will has no plans whatsoever to get out of debt. There is going to be a crashing economy. Yes, it sucks. It has been happening for decades, and there's no plans for stopping it. So how can we fight back? One, we need to stop giving them money. Right? They're not handling their money well. Why do we give money to people who can't handle money well? Because they have the guns. Then if we don't give them the money, then they'll come after us taking our money. It's kind of a, like, okay, well, how are we going to pay for this? We already can't pay for it. We're borrowing money, and the value of the dollar is shrinking dramatically. It's like, well, we need something right now. Okay, what about 10, 20 years from now? We need it now! So whatever happens 10, 20 years from now, we'll blame someone else for whatever happens. Okay, it's not going well. We need to take a step back, cut back on all the expenses that we have. We can't pay for it. We need to take a chill pill. Okay, we need to relax and live below our means, because we're not able to live below or within our own means now. That's a very simple analogy, that's a very simple example of taking the red pill. It doesn't matter whether or not I'm a Republican. It doesn't matter whether or not I'm a Democrat. There's a certain position. Why are we doing this? Somebody says we just have to is a stupid position. We just have to. Or I want this, so this has to happen. Why? Why? It literally is the first question as to why is it this the way that it is? And then you start going down the rabbit hole, and you start understanding certain things about something you just weren't aware of before. And then Lily Wachowski, a transgender person who has a duck that's on fire with a symbol on its head. Wow, that's that's demonic if I've ever seen it. Yeah. Like, oh, that's interesting. Again, why would a duck have a symbol on its forehead with flames all around it? It's kind of interesting. But then to say, fuck both of you to Ivanka Trump and Elon Musk. Why would you be upset for somebody asking the question why? Unless you, by default, already assume that the red pill is associated with Republicans or conservatives or even Christians. Elon Musk is by far not. He is not a Christian. He is not conservative. No, he's not. But, again, taking the red pill means you're being awakened to something. Elon Musk is very aware of what's happening with the AI community, with what's going to be developed and how it's going to affect, harm, positively or negatively, humanity. I disagree with what he's been doing with cryptocurrencies lately. He's been messing up a lot of things. But at the same time, that's a whole conversation in and of itself. It doesn't mean that I'm right or wrong one way or the other. What is correct? That's the whole thing. What is true? What is correct outside of myself, regardless of whether or not I believe it to be true? And then Ivanka Trump says taken the red pill, which means to be waken up and realize, oh, the government kind of sucks. Yeah, the government, the positions that with the people that are being put in this position in these power structures aren't working for us. They're working for themselves. And that's what the system is, because people are ultimately selfish. And selfish people will put their own interest ahead of other people. But that sucks. Why? How do we fight back against our own nature? Well, we need to put people in positions of power. But what if it doesn't work out? Well, we need to put more people in positions of power ahead of them. Why don't we take the power back to us? You racist conservative. It's like, what? Well, then by default, I can't be a Democrat. By default, I can't be a liberal. I have one question about one particular thing. By default, transphobe. What? It's so stupid. And then for Lily Wachowski to come out and say, fuck both of you. It's like, I already know what type of philosophy you have. One, transgenderism is an ideology that you are trying to impose onto other people. Because transgender is an activity. Transgenderism is a belief system, a philosophy that moves your activity, that manipulates your activity. Your philosophy, your thought process, your belief systems change everything about you. There's a transgenderism. Ivanka Trump is Trump. Trump is bad. Trump's daughters are bad. Why? Because fuck them. It's like, that's just stupid. That's a stupid. And again, I'm going to say with like Lutesi. I have no idea how to pronounce your last name, so we're just going to go with Kinsey. The Matrix as a transgender narrative.
Once you see it, The Matrix is a surprisingly queer film, and then you
Yeah, that's horrible. Yeah, that's a really bad thing to think about. Yeah, because you just said it's a transgender film. Now you're saying it's a queer film. Again, the ideology of transgenderism. You're straight. Straight is bad. That's normative. That's why it's bad. And it's bad because it's normal. Straight people overpopulate the trans community. Therefore, the trans people are by default rebels. It's like, that's a very weak position to have. I'm in the minority, therefore I'm a good person. I don't kill people. But I guess since not killing somebody is a normal behavior, therefore it's bad. It's retarded of a position.
You can't stop seeing it.
Again, it's an authority based off the social dynamics, the social structure. If the group believes it to be true and I don't, I'm a good person. Or it's like, that's so silly.
It does need to be addressed up front that the film's directors Lily and Lana Wachowski both came out as transgender women over a decade after the film's release.
Yes, and they were at fault for doing that. That's a stupid thing to do. Yeah. Again, what's like, if you really want to go down that rabbit hole, they're men dressed as women, manipulated their body to be women. Because what a woman is having breasts. That's what a woman is. There's nothing else to it. Unless it is to think and to feel and behave a certain way, like having children. Having children is, without children, society's gone. So anybody out there is like, oh my gosh, you're minimalizing a woman by making them into a sex toy or a human factory. They're just popping out people. It's like, yeah, they're people. Making babies is the most important part. Being a father and a mother to a child is one of the most important things that a child can have. You can have a child in a poverty-stricken area. But if you have a mother and a father, by default in 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 years, that child will grow up to become a very functioning adult because of the structure of the home, of having a mother and a father. So again, it's like there's reality, and then there's what you believe to be true, which is the blue pill. That you can believe whatever you want it to be. Go back and live into the dream world. But reality, waking up and realizing that without families, without straight people, society's nothing. Society would be gone. Gone. And you've already presented at the very beginning that you can believe whatever you want it to believe, but if you disagree with me, you're going to prison. You vote, putting somebody in a position of power. That person in power passes law. Police officers will come after me and ultimately have the authority to kill me, shoot me, dead, if I continue saying no to them. It doesn't matter how many buffers you add in allowing me the chance to say yes. If I say no, again, my body, my choice. Rape and consent are two different things. I don't consent to your policy. Well, then I'm going to jail. Why are you going to punish me for ultimately just simply disagreeing with you when any and all things are equivalent? Either A, there's an objective truth outside of ourselves, or I believe whatever it is that I believe, but I'm going to punish you for disagreeing with me? That doesn't make any sense. That's one of the reasons as to why I eliminated atheism and agnosticism. I can't have a position that's illogical, incoherent, and inconsistent. Why would I have an inconsistent, incoherent, illogical thought process of, if you disagree with me, you're wrong? But how can you ultimately be wrong if any and all things are whatever? So I'm using objective terminology in a subjective mind frame, or set of thought process, which means that I can only make my subjective thought process work by using objectiveness, objectivity. There is certain things that just are true. There are certain things that just are true. It's just fascinating.
The sisters acknowledged that they're
trans people. They're not sisters.
coming out.
Coming out.
Was
Yeah, the two brothers who are trans. They're not sisters. They're not women. They believe themselves to be women. That's what a transgender is. Unless you're just blurring the lines between the two things. How dare I say reality?
going to affect how their earlier films were interpreted, but a number of trans people had already made these connections with The Matrix. From the outset,
A bunch of trans people have associated themselves with The Matrix, therefore The Matrix really is and truly is that thing, regardless of whether or not the creator of it intended it to be that way. Okay, well, let's apply that to other standards. Let's think out loud for a second. This is not me thrusting it. This is actually me being, wait, let's actually think about this. If a bunch of neo-Nazis start associating themselves to a brand, does that brand become that thing? We might believe it to be so. Well, then that's like saying like the OK symbol. Well, an alt-right neo-Nazi did that, therefore this is an alt-right neo-Nazi symbol now. How is this a neo-Nazi symbol unless it's being used as a neo-Nazi symbol? Like the swastika was a swastika only because of the 1942? Was it 1942? I was thinking 1944. Like 1946, I know it was 4 years. I'm trying to think of when did Hitler brand it? When did he use it? Anyways, but before World War II, the swastika was like a symbol of peace or something. And then he used it, and then now it's a symbol of hate. Yeah, there's an association to a particular thing that we in our subjective brains are like, oh, no, avoid that. But objectively, like, if that's the case in which like a bunch of people swarm onto something, it makes it that thing. But is it that thing, though? After 1942 or whenever he established it before it became very popular, it was a symbol of peace, and now it's not a symbol of peace, but we consider it to be a symbol of peace. If I was to use that symbol, I would be considered a neo-Nazi, but if I said, like, no, it's not, it's actually a symbol of peace that I'm actually referencing from the past, people would see it as a surface and be like, oh, you're a neo-Nazi. How can I be a neo-Nazi? Because of association. So, if a bunch of normal people liked this movie more than trans people, then it's a normal movie. It's a straight normative movie. It doesn't matter if there's by default more straight people in society that like something, then that makes it that thing. And you saying that they're wrong for associating to that thing is wrong. How can you then say that cis normative behavior is wrong if people associate and get around that thing, and it becomes that thing. If society is let's go with this again. If this movie is associated with more transgenders, let's just say with disproportionate numbers, that transgenders swarm to this movie, therefore it makes this movie a transgender movie. Well, then that means if something is a bunch of straight people swarm to something, anything, then that makes it that thing. So if more straight people swarm to this movie and love this movie, then it's about whatever so it's about whatever the group believes? Or it's about whatever is disproportionate? I don't know. It's like, what rule set are you using here? I'm kind of curious. This isn't really an attack. This is more of a curiosity thing in which I think you are labeling. Again, everything is transgender. Everything is straight. That's your worldview, rather than what are the characters doing? What is the ultimate message of what they're trying to do? What does Neo ultimately come about? It's like, well, it's about straight and transgender. That's what transgenderism, the looking glass in which your brain, your mind, your philosophy starts making you look at. At the very beginning, people who are straight are asleep. People who are gay and trans, they're awake. That showcases everything that needs to be said about this entire review.
The character is living two lives. By day, he's a corporate drone going by the name
Thomas A. Anderson.
He has a stable job, he's financially secure, and he takes on a fairly male social role.
And you help your landlady carry out her garbage.
Let's listen to that unironically again.
Fairly male social role.
Person.
He has a stable job, he's financially secure, and he takes on a fairly male social role.
A fairly male social role of taking out your landlady's garbage.
Help your landlady carry out her garbage.
So what if you're a woman who has a landlady who needs to have the garbage taken out? But normally guys do the heavy lifting because they're physically built for that. Women are usually more analytical, and they usually can be multitasking better. That's why they make great secretaries. They really do. It's why they make great mothers. It's why they make great parents. Because they are able to multitask very simple tasks that a guy we get confused with a bunch of things at once. But when it's one particular task, we're going to nail it. We're going to go towards it. We're going to conquer it. We're going to achieve it. It's like, it's how it's made. And you mentioned it. Why was it important enough for you to mention a fairly normal male social behavior or activity? Why did you need to indicate it as being a typically male activity rather than he helps his landlady out? He helps the person who owns his place. They need help. What if it was an old guy, an 86-year-old guy who needs the trash taken out? Therefore, the 86-year-old guy is going to be the one that takes out the trash, or you take out the trash because you're younger and fitter and can have more mobility. But he's a guy, and he's doing guy behaviors.
By night, he's using a chosen name, spending most of his time living alone and sitting at his computer. In fact, the very first thing we see Neo doing... Hold on, I need to explain something for the
Okay. Cisgender. Having a gender identity that, I'm assuming that says that, corresponds with one's gender assigned at birth. Just to let you know, you're not assigned anything. You have a sex, a gender at birth. You're not assigned anything, you idiot. You're assigned. So if I was born male and they assigned me female, am I female? No, I'm male. If people treat me like a female, if they convince me that I'm a female, if they try to influence me in any regards of becoming a female, and then I become a female, you'd be like, wow, isn't it amazing that this person really is a female? They were always a female to begin with. Self-fulfilling prophecy. Rather than, here's what reality is. And then it's just, it's fascinating. And then cis is the Latin prefix meaning of on the same side of, as opposed to trans meaning on the other side of. For example, ciscipline? It's a new word. And translipline. I don't even know what the plin is. Tribes. Like, I would have loved if you chose something different. Like, I don't know. I don't know whatever words you would have used. You could be like translocate versus cislocate. Can you cislocate? Translocate you can. I don't know if you can cislocate. It's an interesting little thought process.
People in the audience first. 1. Eggs. There's this popular narrative that trans people always knew they were trans and that they were born in the wrong body.
Before we go any further, if that is not the case, your next statement is wrong.
But that doesn't track with a lot of trans people, and of the trans people I personally know, I'd say only a very small minority would identify with this story.
Meaning, the majority of people who are trans have been later convinced. Mental state changed, their philosophy changed, thus their bodies changed. I believe something different about myself, thus I'm going to change my physical body. Therefore, my breasts, I'm going to chop them off, my penis, I'm going to chop it off, or I'm going to take some pills. Or, I don't even have to do anything at all, I'm just going to grow out my hair. That makes me trans. What's a trans anymore? And a trans person, like a trans woman, you could be whatever you want to be and look however you want to look. Okay, what's a woman? Well, a woman specifically looks like this. So that's what a woman is, just what their appearance is. It doesn't have to be like what their sound, smell, taste, touches. It doesn't mean that they're actually having different interpretations or experiences. It doesn't mean that they have different functions. Different functions than men? Oh, you cis-normative behavior of thinking that men and women are different. And men and women are fundamentally the same. Okay. Only have women then in society. Only have, well, again, that's something that they would herald from, but they would never want to have only men in society. It's like, well, yeah, because we only need to have women because they can make babies. You mean that women make babies and men who try to think that they actually are women can't have babies, but you would prefer to have a trans woman in society because they can produce the sperm to make the baby? Like, again, it's one of those, I don't get the philosophy of transgender. Transgender is a philosophy. It's an ideology that I am not who I am. But the thing is that in the Matrix, that's the wrong thing. That's the wrong position. Because you need to be red-pilled to be waken up. You stop being asleep in your mental state. Be woken to what reality is and who you truly are, not who you feel yourself to be. Your feelings can be wrong. Your thoughts can be wrong. By that simple statement, anything that you believe in is not ultimately correct.
For a lot of trans people, their gender identity is something that had to be figured out, and that...
Right, figured out. Because they started questioning whether or not... Oh, here's a really great example. Let's go with an analogy I think the majority of people probably wouldn't accept. No, let me phrase it like this. Let's go with this analogy. In the Bible, I know people don't really care about that. In Genesis, the serpent questions God's own self-attesting authority. Eve was commanded by God to not eat of a specific tree. The serpent said, "Did he? Did he say not to? Did he?" And questioned reality. Are Jews really people? Why can't we just get rid of them? Are straight people really like the okay way to live? Should I not lop off my breasts? Should I not lop off my penis? Should I not try to convince a 2-year-old child that they really are of a different sex than they actually were born? Should I convince them that they are who I say they are? And if they don't, then they're just playing into cis-normative behaviors? Then I'm going to try... yeah. That's a great phrase that I've heard from a comedian, is a vegan cat and a transgender child. We both know who's making the decisions in that. So, we both know who's making the decisions in the relationship of a vegan cat and a transgender child. We both know who's making the decisions. It's not the cat, it's not the child.
It's a process that can take years to even really begin. And the struggle for trans people to come to terms with their identity is such a common story that the online trans community has already come up with a...
Online trans community. Online straight community. It's weird that you have a community associated around a particular immutable characteristic. It's like the online tall community. People of great height. Why is there a community of people who have great height? It's like there could be people who have, like, cancer survivor people. They might have a community because of a shared experience. Just like a collection of transgender people having a shared experience. But it's very weird to have that based off of a mental state that can change on a whim and a dime. It's like, I've been convinced that I am a woman, therefore, it's like, your shared experience is just, it's weird. Like, there are communities of straight people, but it's just weird to call that. It's really weird. It's a weird thing. It's like, well, that's my normative behavior. I need to really understand that. It's like, but I'm not wrong in my position, though. Why are you trying to convince me otherwise? Because there's a reality that I need to abide by. So there's an objective truth outside of ourselves, which means that I can be wrong. You can be wrong. Yes, that's a good thing. That's a really good thing. Good. Good. Want to continue extending upon that where does truth come from thing? Because if it ultimately is whatever human society, whatever human experience that we decide for ourselves, but that goes contrary to there actually being an objective truth outside of ourselves.
Slang language for it. Eggs. When you're an egg, you're safely closed off by your shell, unable to see the wider world. It's...
An egg is a person who is trans or non-binary and has not realized it yet. So everybody is an egg. You just haven't realized how horrible of a human being you are. You just haven't realized how much of a great person you are. It's like, it's a potential, you're adding this potential to everybody. It is a philosophy. It is an ideology. Transgenderism, not just transgender, a person of transgender, of someone who believes a certain thing. It is a belief system. It's not a physical system. It's a belief system. It's a philosophy. Because the thing is that it took them years to become this thing because they didn't realize it. So if they realize it and then were convinced otherwise, they're not going against their physical nature. They're going against the convinced state in which they had. The belief system that was installed into them, or something of questioning the reality, and then they wanted to change reality. Like, I don't want this wall to be here. Why should we remove the wall? It's a really great question. But if the wall serves a purpose, if the wall has a really great reason for being there, you destroying the wall, and then something happens horribly. I'm using a wrong example because there's so many things that I'm trying to. There's so much about this, and I'm very inarticulate with my position right now. I really am. I really am. I'm the one who's wrong for being incapable of understanding this position. Yeah. I don't understand when you have a philosophy that everyone is a potential egg. I know that sounds stupid, but again, where is it?
Has already come up with a slang language for it. Eggs.
Egg. If everybody is potentially an egg, well then, again, that's a worldview of everybody. Well, you're just potentially a straight person. You just haven't realized what reality is. Am I wrong for saying that? A person who believes themselves to be transgender, and then, let's just go, you said egg, let's just go with chicken. Just a thing. You say egg is a person who is trans or non-binary but has not realized it yet. And you can only know that you have realized it yet, which means that, again, a slang term or for somebody who has the potential to be something is an egg. Well, then let's just go with the terminology chicken. We could use anything, but let's just go with the chicken. I don't know what a great analogy would be, but let's just go with chicken. You actually are not trans, you are actually straight. And you just haven't realized it yet. And I call people chickens. If I called people chickens, it's like, that'd be kind of A, weird. B, is that wrong? If somebody is convinced that they're trans and I call them a chicken, it's like you really just haven't been convinced that you are a straight person. Is that offensive? But if that's offensive, why is this not offensive? Calling somebody if somebody who's straight, but then you can only know that somebody is trans if they have come out either as saying that they are trans, but just because they are trans doesn't mean that they'll regret it 5-10 years later. Maybe even a year later, they'll be like, oh man, I chose the wrong thing. I've done something to my body physically and I can't remove it or reverse it. What about all the detransitioners? Again, it's a thing of, you are gay, this is who you are. But what if you're not? What if you're not trans? Because it's a mental issue that's disconnected with your body. That you literally have a belief system that is contrary to what is real.
When you're an egg, you're safely closed off by your shell, unable to see the wider world. It's kind of like being in a sensory deprivation tank. Everything is muffled, and the world is hazy and translucent through the walls. There's always some barrier between you and reality. Being inside the egg is comfortable, and leaving the egg is a lot of work. A lot of painful, grinding work that many people would rather avoid.
Let's use the exact terminology of the word egg. You are an egg. And I'm not talking about you potentially being a trans person, you're just not aware of it. No, you're a trans person. All trans people out there, you're all eggs. Not this definition, let's make up a new one. You're actually a straight person, but you just haven't realized it yet. Let's read this with that philosophy. That all the trans people out there are actually eggs, that there's a potential, you actually are straight, you just haven't realized that about yourself. When you are a trans person who doesn't, again, we're going to replace the word egg or anything that's analogous to an egg, we're going to replace it with, instead of a normal straight person to a trans, we're going to say trans to a normal, to a straight person. When you are a straight person who hasn't realized that they are a trans person my goodness, again, trying to get all these, it's a weird terminology, it really is. When you are a trans person who hasn't realized that they're straight, you're safely closed off by your environment, or whatever it says behind the camera, to see the wider world. It's kind of like being in a Serenity tank, or whatever it's called, where you're a submersion tank. Everything is muffled. Being a trans person who hasn't understood that they actually are straight. Everything is muffled and the world is hazy and translucent through the walls, because your philosophy closes you off from reality of all those trans people out there, you being straight, actually straight. There is always some barrier between you and reality. Being inside the egg is comfortable. Yes, being inside the egg where other people around you who are championing your emotional state and making you believe that you are continuously a trans person when you might actually not be. But again, the people that you hang around with, if they're more likely to be like, yay, you're trans, or trans, whatever. It's like, oh, so they're not challenging the belief system. Well, that's interesting. It is a belief system. It's up in here. Being inside the egg is comfortable. And again, if you want to say that about straight people, like, that's a very weird thing. We need to challenge straight sexuality. Well, I think you should challenge everything. Doesn't mean you're correct. We need to challenge straight people. Okay, remove all straight people. Society has just gone. It's gone. It's gone. That's fantastic. But ultimately, my belief system doesn't come from a quote-unquote reality check, because you can make whatever you want in reality, but if I'm wrong for my belief system, it's very fascinating. It really is. And leaving the egg is a lot of work. It's a lot of painful, grinding work that many people would rather avoid. Yes, when you are trans and you have to convert back to being straight because society the people around you might think like, oh, you're trans. If you're not trans anymore, it's like, oh, that's an issue. It's like, what will people think of me if I made this commitment and then I transition back? That takes a lot of work. That is a social normative thing, where if you go against the trans narrative, then there by default you are wrong. Going against a trans narrative is a very difficult thing that actually might elude you or might persuade you to remove straightness being a possibility. You can't be straight because if you do, it might go against the grain. It might mean that you have to change your political association because certain people might actually like you or not like you based on whether or not you're trans or straight. It's weird. Again, by the way, trans and straight, it really does prove. Yeah. Because when I say straight, when you say trans, it's like you mean born. You can't really say that trans has nothing to do with heterosexuality. It absolutely does. It absolutely does. You are a trans woman who likes women. So you're a lesbian? No, you're a guy believing yourself to be a woman. Guy believes themselves to be a girl who likes girls. So a guy likes girls. Yeah.
Does come out as trans, they'll often look back on this period of their life and realize that they were dealing with the gender feels or gender dysphoria all along.
Gender dysphoria, the feeling of discomfort living as a gender which does not match your gender identity. And your gender identity can be wrong. So, it is not necessary to have dysphoria to be transgender. How can you not? It is not necessary to have dysphoria to be transgender. Wrong. Your gender identity and the feeling of discomfort living as gender which does not match your gender identity. So, if you don't feel discomfort, I guess it's about just comfortability. But then it's like, I know that my physical body's a certain way, but I believe myself to be a different thing. It's like, okay, that's something else entirely.
Belong. It just manifested in ways that weren't easily identifiable at the time. Some of these are more obvious in retrospect, like jumping at the opportunity to cross-dress or playing a different sex character in a video game. Other times it's more subtle.
That's not gender. That's not transgender. That's a man dressing as a woman. I don't know how else to oh my goodness. The blue pill is akin to chaos. You can do and dream and think and feel whatever it is that you want it to be. The red pill is waking up to reality. The red pill, I believe oh my goodness. The Joker is nothing but chaos. Chaos destroys whatever you want it to be because anything can be whatever you want it to be. It destroys all things because anything can be all things.
Opportunity to cross-dress or playing a different sex character in a video game.
Cross-dressing is the same as transgenderism? As a transgender person is somebody who cross-dresses, actively cross-dresses. That's not a transgender person. That is a cross-dresser who enjoys dressing as a particular gender, particular sex.
Other times it's more subtle, an existential feeling that something's wrong despite having a life which should make you happy. Another way to explain this would be,
You felt it your entire life. That there's something wrong with the world. You don't know what it is, but it's there. Like a splinter in your mind, driving you mad.
I got an ad in about 2 seconds.
Did you hear what users are saying lately about...
I don't care.
a lot of eggs end up online, experimenting with a different name and pronouns and trying to find other people who might be able to explain why the world just feels so off.
Exactly. If you feel like a dog, you can dress like a dog and the world is wrong for not acknowledging you being a dog. Transgenderism is an ideology. You have just proven it to me. It is a belief system that I come up with. The world is wrong. I believe it to be true. The world is not right they are wrong for not acknowledging my belief system. I'm correct. My identity. I'm good. I'm right. You're wrong for not abiding by me. Me. This is an ideology. This is nothing but an ideology. You have a belief system and you try to thrust it upon the world. Oh, but you have an ideology of being straight and you're thrusting it upon the world. Thrust. Walked right into that one. Deconstructionism. You have a belief system, or let's just go with what Vosh believes. I have a video, I've watched his description of neo-Marxism, that we all have axioms in which we believe. We all have axioms in which we believe. Justice, fairness, equality, goodness. But how we achieve those things are different and to what ends. Those axioms are things that we all believe in. But we don't believe in all the same axioms. Murdering a child, you identifying what is a child. If you don't believe that the baby inside of the womb is a child, well, you can do whatever you want with it. If you don't believe that a Jew is a person, you can do whatever you want to him. If you don't believe a slave is a person, you can do whatever you want to them. Again, it doesn't matter whether or not we have shared axioms. It doesn't matter whether or not we have shared beliefs. There are certain realities. regardless of whether or not I believe one way or the other. And I'll even use this as an example. I don't think any single trans person or any person who is against this position in which I've been describing is a valid one. Because, yes, I have lived a life. Yes, you can live a life of pornography online, and that is a disconnect from what is actually real. For example, I'm going to share this, and it's something that's going to be very uncomfortable for anybody who is like, oh, I know this person, it's very weird for you to say this. I have looked at a lot of stuff online when it comes to pornography. I've started pornography when I was age 8, thanks to my brother, who's an asshole for doing that. Yeah. Because of that, I have become bored with some material, and I moved on to something else. And when I mentally am trapped and excluded from reality, and I'm in my own bubble, anything that I look online, I can get off from. Because and I can entertain an idea that is different than reality. Okay? I can look at a trans person online, and it'd be so interesting to me and fascinating, and it's just, I get to be wrapped up in this bubble. But then when I get out in the real world, that's wrong. It's just like, oh, that's just weird. Like, it's a weird thing to connect myself with that. And it doesn't matter whether or not, there's nobody around me. It's just like, this type of this thing is real. This, like, why would I ever do that in the real world? But then I can come back into my own room. I can be by myself. And there is a disconnect from my physical real world and being trapped in my own mental state. Yes, I am very well aware of this. This is something that has happened to me. It's something that I'm done with. I hate the fact that I have done it. I'm grateful that I did it because now I have the availability to say, without question, I understand transgenders, period. Yes, I'm very intimate with them. But it's a different thing when you actually experience it in the real world. It's a different thing. Yeah, you can be trapped and wrapped up in your own head, but in the real world, it's much different. There's a physical reality in which we live in. And if your brain disconnects your physical body from the reality in which we live in, that is a mental state. That is literally an ideology that you are thrusting upon the world. Regardless of whether or not I want to sleep with as many women as I want, is it a good thing to do? I feel like I should be sleeping with as many people as possible. That is my that is my truth. And if I don't abide by that truth, then you're wrong. Then I'm wrong for not abiding by that feeling. But the feeling can be wrong, that there's actually a good way to live. Having one woman to live with, sleeping with her as many times throughout the day, as many times throughout the week, month, and year, and throughout my entire life, and making as many children, as that is the function of sex. Well, the function of sex is whatever you want it to be, to bring about of whatever pleasure. Paying taxes doesn't bring me any pleasure, but I have to do it because other people say, which means that people have a right and say over my life of what I do within society. Straight people and trans people, you've just introduced. You've just introduced it, really. It's fascinating. It is so fascinating how much of an ideology transgenderism is. I did not realize, I did know, within this one video, I've not realized how much it is. Transgenderism is an ideology. Transgender is an ideology.
And why they're obsessed with gender and gender identity. From the very first time we see Neo, his story follows this pattern to the letter. He's passed out in front of a computer searching for information about Morpheus. Multiple scenes detail how Neo feels that something around him is wrong, he just doesn't know what, and he's tearing himself up mentally trying to figure it out.
So you feel like something is wrong, therefore you are Neo. Why can you not be the bad guy? Why can't you be the bad guy? Why can't you be the person who betrays everybody in Matrix 1? All trans people are the bad guy from Matrix 1. And I don't know if that's clipped out. If somebody clips that, that'd be kind of funny. Literally, why can't transgender people be the ones that are the enemy, the ones that are trying to go into the dream state and actually have the life that they want that is contrary to the reality in which to live by? Why not? Why is it that I feel like something's wrong in society? I'm the hero. I'm Neo. Something's wrong in society. I don't like this. Therefore, I'm Neo. I have a feeling that this is wrong. Therefore, I'm the good person. They're the bad person. That's called moral relativism. Transgenderism has just proven that moral relativism is their bedrock. That's fascinating.
If you haven't caught on, Neo is the egg, and Morpheus and his crew are the out-queers.
No.
I mean, look at how they dress.
Oh, isn't it proven that, again, transgenderism, queer people, that she just said, queer people, gay people, think and feel and act differently? Yes, you've just proven. Oh, that's so interesting. That's the style of gay people. So again, if you enjoy wearing leather, you're gay. Like, oh, because the majority of gay people wear that. Why? Because of sexual, whatever you want it to be. Notice how this entire movie has no children in it. No, it has one, but that's pretty much all you'll get from transgenderism. Very few families. Very few families. The families that they do want to propagate, they want to make the child into whatever they want it to be. Whatever again, vegan cat, transgender child, we both know who's making the decisions in that one. And just, I enjoyed, back when I was 5 or 6 or something, I put balloons in my shirt, and ooh, breasts. Ha 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 ha. It was a fun thing to do. And then we popped them and had fun, and we were rubbing it and doing the electric, the static shock thing where you rub the balloon and then you rub the balloon on your head and then you put it on your shirt. Oh, hey, look at that, that's kind of cool. So, yeah, we were playing. Does that make me a transgender child? Well, we need to not limit the children. Also, let's limit everybody else from what their beliefs are as adults. Let's not limit children, let's limit adults. Why are we limiting adults? Because we have to focus on children. Then can we not kill them in the womb? Well, a person, specifically a person, not a woman, because women are the only ones that can have children, are the ones that get to choose. Do they have a right to choose to kill their own child without the consent of the father? If that's the choice in which is able to be existent in this world, why does the father ever have to pay child support? Why do we ever have to pay for a woman to have a child? Why do they deserve welfare if that's the case? Where's the father? Again, the father shouldn't just be punished. The father should be in the home with the child that they have produced together. Well, he's abusive. Is he abusive, or you just don't like him? You don't like his opinions. You had a child with somebody with whom's opinions you disagree with. Why? Religious people don't have this issue. Orthodox religious people marry for children, don't get divorced, and their children are more functional to be able to propagate the next thing. Transgenders are the ones who experiment with stuff, and then when things fall to hell, rely on straight people to get themselves out of there. Not to be a tribal thing. A tribal oh, you're a trans person, therefore you're wrong. But again, transgenderism is there's this line of demarcation that was made at the very beginning of this film, of this review, that the blue pill are the straight people, the cis people, the people who are born of the same sex and gender which they feel or whatever. And then if a trans person is the red pill who's waking up, why is it not the other way around? A trans person gets to live in whatever dream fantasy world in which they live in, regardless of whatever reality that is this world. I'm kind of tired with this review. It's nothing. I've had no differing thoughts. I was looking forward to something a bit more productive. I was looking for something incredibly more productive. There's nothing but just ideology, and you're a cis person, this is a trans person, and trans analogy, which is actually a straight analogy. There's nothing new. I'm tired. I am tired. I'm tired of this nonsense. Can we once just have a movie about... one of my favorite, let's just say, gay people, or you could probably say... he's, I think, a pedophile, probably. He's not a pedophile, but he's... when it comes to a character online, which again, that's probably going to get clipped out, my favorite pedophile. is from Hunter x Hunter is the clown guy. I'm trying to remember what his name is. The clown magician. I think they kind of screwed the pooch, making his first power literally look like a magician magic of disintegrating his foe rather than using the gummy effect. Again, that was a big issue within the Hunter x Hunter series anime. But he's a morally ambiguous person who gets off sexually from murder and these two children who are the most powerful. So it's like there's like this weird. His sexuality is so freaking off-putting, so weird. But his character is very interesting because of his dynamic within the entire world. He's one of my favorite. I wouldn't say he is a bad guy. He's not a villain, but he's not a good person in the slight at all. I don't think he's good at least once in that entire series of Hunter x Hunter. But he's a really good character. Probably not my top 50, but he's definitely not the bottom. He's a really good, has character development, surprisingly, has character development. He has weaknesses. And he has humility moments, which is freaking hilarious when he's trying to play cool to allow a situation to play out so he can kill a particular target that he's just being patiently waiting for. I don't think he gets his target, but he's like the entire time it's like, I want to kill him or something. And I remember what happens, but I don't want to spoil anything. He doesn't kill his target, and he gets disappointed that his target's powers go away. Because that was the entire point of he gets sexually off. He gets sexually aroused from fighting strong opponents and then killing them. So whatever the guy's name, the clown from Hunter x Hunter, it's a really good character. really, really well-made character. But that's how you make a really interesting character. It's just, trans allegory. What? Anyways, I'm so tired of this. This is so fascinating. Yeah, I'll even open it as an extension. If anybody out there would like to challenge this point of view, by all means, help me out. But the more that you talk about how much it is a mental state, it's not a mental state. It's how you feel. Right, your feelings can be wrong. Right? Your feeling about the... let's even go back. This is the last thing that I'll mention. This thing that she mentions about...
We see Neo. His story follows this pattern to the letter. He's passed out in front of a computer searching for information about Morpheus. Multiple scenes detail how Neo feels that something around him is wrong, he just doesn't know what, and he's tearing himself up mentally trying to figure it out.
You attach yourself to Neo, the main character of the entire... He is the hero, by the way. You attach yourself to the main character, Neo, that you feel yourself to be trans, you feel something's wrong with society, so you attach yourself to the hero. Why do you not attach yourself to the villain, who has the exact same issue and punishes everybody else? He wants to go into the dream state and he wants to wake up living the life he wants to live. Neo is trying to figure out what the truth is, and he has to change according to the truth. He has to abide by what is objectively true outside of himself. He is going beyond what he feels. He's going and actually evolving into something else. He's not changing into a different sex. I know it's an analogy, but he's not transforming to how he feels. He's transformed by the truth, objectively, that is outside of himself. That's what the red pill is all about. Any single person that's out there that would like to challenge this entire position, you need to challenge that one point. If you can't challenge that one point, it's just whatever. You're attaching yourself to the hero. You're not attaching yourself to the villain. Nobody wants to attach themselves to a villain. I don't want to attach myself to a villain. But just because I want to be the hero doesn't make me a good person. Just because I attach myself to somebody who's doing particular activity, it's like that analogy can be wrong. You could be associating to the wrong person. Yeah, you want to live in your own dream state, and then you're telling everybody else that they're wrong. That's the guy that's the enemy. That's the enemy, the very beginning. You're the blue pill people who are straight and cisgender, sleeping and living your own life, being bubbled up, but in your own comfortable bed. But those who are taking the red pill are transgenders. But it's actually the opposite. red-pilled people are waking up to what is going on that's outside of myself. Regardless of whether or not I believe it to be true, I need to actually be aware of it and actually go towards that thing, regardless of how I feel. I could be wrong. My feelings can be wrong. Me chopping off my penis can be wrong. Me chopping off my vagina. Me convincing another person that they are transgender can be wrong. Can be wrong. So, that's the thing. By the way, I will point out, no, I don't believe that transgenders are good for society. Convince me otherwise. If you want to just go with, like, facts, okay. Well, any facts could be whatever you want it to be, because I have a feeling society is wrong, therefore I'm the hero, I'm the good guy. I'm the good person. Everyone else is wrong because they're not abiding by my own truths. That's just so weird for me. It's a very weird position to be in when transgenderism, again, a slippery slope, and when you start allowing, it's an unfortunate thing, it's like, oh, homophobia. Being afraid of gay people? It's so weird. The slippery slope. Once you start letting the gays do what they want, then the transgenders will do what they want, then you will allow people who think that they're dogs in society, and then people who want to abort as many people as possible, which, again, it's very surprising that the majority of people who are trying, or who are on the side of abortion, disproportionately, are people who don't often have children. So, yeah. Angry women and gay men. Very fascinating, it really is, of trying to remove that. And, of course, it is fascinating. And men who don't want to have children. Yeah, get rid of the child. But the moment that they want to have a child, well, you've already done the deed. You've already said that they can. Okay, fine. You can. I want all people who abort their babies, abort all your babies. It's not a bad thing. It's not a wrong thing. But you don't deserve to be you don't deserve to be a parent. You don't deserve to propagate your children. More importantly, you have no right whatsoever to tell what other people do with their children at all. But apparently, people do. I don't get it. It makes no sense to me. Again, illogic, inconsistent, incoherent thought processes are kind of like the bane of my existence. It doesn't make any sense. Why do I have to abide by it? Because society said so. So can society be wrong? Yes. So it's whatever you want it to be ultimately. Yes. I'm not wrong then, objectively. You just don't like what I have to say. It's like, yeah, circle, square, consent, rape, well, it's all the same. It's whatever you want it to be, but I don't like it to be one particular way. Why? Because of my own personal fulfillment and happiness. But my own personal fulfillment and happiness can be wrong. Can it? Yes. Why? Ultimately, it's like anything can be whatever you want it to be, but if you disagree with me, you're going to jail. It's amazing. You punish other people for not abiding by your full belief system. Well, it's like, well, you do it too. What do you mean? Then I shouldn't, right? If I'm punishing other people because of my own belief system, then what type of belief system must I have? Right? I have to change. It's me. I have to be the one that changes into what the truth is. Well, that's what transgenderism. No, it's not. You're transforming into whatever you believe to be true, not what is true regardless of whether or not I believe it. So, there we go. Get a lot of hate for that one. Cool. Yay. Man, speaking truth, man, that's crazy. Thank you very much for being a part of this. For all those who are still here, you enjoy the rest of your day, and I'll see you next time. Probably could delay. I'll see you next time. Just like, can I move that finger any slower?